Hello everyone and welcome to some bad news and some good news from the Chess Olympiad 2024. Dingliren will not be facing Gukesh in round 7 of this year's Olympiad. For unknown reason, Ding decided to skip that round, probably to rest and also to maybe avoid showing any preparation that he might be storing for the World Chess Championship match against Gukesh in November. And yes, you could say that he's putting himself, first in front of his country. But then again, if he does well in the World Chess Championship match, he will be putting his country definitely first. So I'm sure they have a very good reason. But even without Ding playing on board 1, Wei Yi is a fierce opponent. I'm sure you guys will agree, because yeah, unless Ding brings his absolute best, his A game, Wei Yi is a scarier opponent, I would say. Considering the form that Ding's been in lately. If you look at the games in the Olympiad, he has 4 draws in the first 4 rounds and then a loss to Quang Lianle. So yeah, maybe it would be better for Wei Yi to take on Gukesh in this big India versus China matchup. But okay, we'll see what happens today. Very much looking forward to this one. So I decided to show you a game that Wei Yi played, and he's playing against David Anton Guijarro. This is a game from round 5. David Anton going into round 5 with 4 out of 4. So he's been having an incredible Olympiad. Wei Yi on 3.5 out of 4. So let's see this big fight. Wei Yi with white opens with pawn to e4. It's going to be a very theoretical opening. c5, knight f3, knight to c6, and pawn to d4. Okay, just the standard open Sicilian, captures, and now pawn to g6. David Anton goes for the accelerated dragon. Pawn to c4 going for the Maroczy bind formation, knight to f6, and knight to c3. We have pawn to d6, and now bishop to e2. Knight captures on d4. This is the top line everyone plays. Queen captures, bishop to g7, and a nice calm bishop to e3. You don't have to worry about this bishop x-raying your queen. There just aren't any good discoveries with the knight. We have castles kingside and queen back to d2. So in the future you can play some bishop to h6 action if black allows it, but even though we don't really ever see that maneuver in top level games. We have pawn to a5, bishop to e6 still the more common approach, but pawn to a5 second most popular, pawn to f3, pawn to a4, and rook to c1. Again, nothing new being played here. Queen to a5 most popular for black. We have bishop to e6 here, putting pressure on that c4 pawn, and knight to d5. And this knight to d5 maneuver is okay. Wei Yi is down to 1 hour and 7 minutes on the clock. David Anton playing really quickly. He only spent 5 minutes so far, but this knight to d5 move, Wei Yi spent 21 minutes thinking about it. And I'm sure, even though it looks like David Anton knows the line by heart, I think he's just playing very well. I don't think he actually knows it by heart, because knight to d5 is the top engine move, and this is where he decides to spend some time. Hard to say if it's because he doesn't know the reply by heart, or maybe he knows more replies by heart, or that Wei Yi simply decided to spend 21 minutes here, so maybe he's like, is there something here, am I missing something? We will never know. But he plays it, knight captures on d5. And you might think, why would you do this? Well, I mean, the alternative is to allow this knight to remain on d5, just controlling your entire half of the board. So knight captures, pawn captures, and bishop to d7, and now pawn to a3. And there is a game, even this position has been reached in the Chinese Women Championship last year. Yu Xinsong played it against Miao Yilu, where queen to b4 was played. But here we have pawn to h3, and it is now, as of move 15, that we have a completely new game. Wei Yi down to 42 minutes, David Anton an hour and 16 minutes on the clock. We have pawn to e6, challenging the d5 pawn, and now d captures on e6. Here you might be thinking about something like, let's say, queen b4, bishop b6, okay, maybe we bring the rook to c7. The problem is, if the queen and bishop move from this diagonal, then queen to g5 becomes an option. Then your g2 pawn is hanging, and you're going to have to waste a move on either playing king to f2 or castling kingside. So you should react to this e6 move. First, d captures on e6, bishop captures, and now bishop to d4, offering a trade of dark square bishops. Bishop captures, we have queen captures, and queen to g5 now, forcing white to castle as the rook rook on c1 is hanging, and Wei Yi doesn't castle. You don't just become a 27-62 player by castling away from danger. Wei Yi goes king to f2. We have rook f to c8, and now pawn to h4. And this pawn to h4 is a really nice move. The official chess.com interface gives it a double exclamation mark, because it seems like you're giving up the queen for 2 rooks. But even if you do this, and usually it's a great idea to do this, 2 rooks are stronger than a queen, the problem is this h5 move. And now you can't really allow pawn to h6 because black only has a light square bishop. You will have to capture, and now with your ruin king side, you will have to worry about the light square bishop later on. So white should be better for the rest of the game. That's the reason why it wasn't played, and why pawn to h4 is so strong by Wei Yi. Queen back to h6, and now rook to c3, preparing to double up on the c file. So rook captures, we have pawn captures, and rook to c8, attacking the pawn on c3. So pawn to c4, again, a second Maroczy bind structure in this game. Queen to f4, and now pawn to g3. We have queen to e5, offering a queen trade, and rook to d1. Wei Yi just makes sure that if queens get traded off, his c4 pawn will be nicely defended here. So pawn to h5, pawn to f4, trying to force a queen trade to happen on d4. We have queen to c5, and now Wei Yi trades. Queen captures, we have rook captures on c5, and rook to d4. And while this is a very passive square for the rook, you can't really move it anywhere. The king is now coming to the queen side, and then you're going to be able to move the rook. So David Anton has to figure out how to go about this. And objectively, it's still a perfectly fine position for both white and black. We have king f8, king to e3, king to e7, and now king to d3. We have bishop to d7, king to c3, and pawn to b5. You don't really want to allow king to b4, so it better make use of the tension right away. We have rook to d5, offering a rook trade, and rook back to c8. We have pawn to e5, d captures, rook captures with check, king to d6, and now rook to d5 check, and now king to e7. King to e6 is still very, very strong and manageable for black, but after king to e7, allowing the rook to remain on d5, now Wei Yi can definitely claim advantage, and he plays pawn to c5. Now it looks like maybe the pawn cannot be defended. Maybe you can just attack it, and it's gonna be gone. And yes, that is the case. White will lose this pawn, but you will win these 2 pawns. So that's key. Bishop to e6 attacks the rook, rook e5, pawn to f6 chases the rook back, rook to e3, and now rook captures on c5. Even loses it with check, but now king to b4. We have rook to c1, and now bishop captures on b5. We have rook to b1 with check, king captures on a4. Now Wei Yi has the passed a pawn, and king to d6. We have king to a5, preparing to march the pawn forward, king to, bishop to f5, and pawn to a4. We have king to c5, and rook to c3 with check. You never want your king cutting off your own king away like this, because then you run into all sorts of checkmating ideas like this. So you never wanted the king there. We have king to d4, rook to c4 with check, king to d5, and now rook to c6, going after the f6 pawn, rook to g1, going after the g3 pawn, and now Wei Yi decides to just advances past a pawn to victory. He doesn't care about the f6 pawn. King to b6, we have rook captures on g3. The material is now equal. Pawn to a5, we have rook to b3, and now rook to c5 check. This is, of course, much better than just advancing the pawn. If you advance the pawn, then you run into this very nasty trick. Rook captures, king captures, and bishop d7 with the skewer, and now after a6, you will capture with check, and the bishop also defends the queening square. So, of course, Wei Yi spots this. He plays rook to c5 with check. It's also something that you should be mindful of in your own games, especially when there's little time on the clock, like 3-minute blitz or bullet games. Your opponent has a light square bishop. Just, don't keep your pieces on light squares unless you really have to. It really helps a lot. So we have king to d6, pawn to a6, advancing the pawn to victory, bishop to e4, controlling the queening square, and pawn to e7. And now rook to b2. We have rook to c8, preparing to queen the pawn, or so it seems, bishop to h1. And now, what would you do here? Would you just queen the pawn and win the bishop? No, that would be a pretty bad idea. If you do this and bishop captures, rook captures, yes, you are now up a bishop, but the black king is much closer to the action than the white king, and you're not going to be able to do anything here, like king e6, king to c5, king to f5, and the pawns will start folding, unless you defend them with something like rook a4. But then after rook to d2, the rook is stuck guarding the f4 pawn. The king cannot cross the d file as the rook controls it, and you can try, you know, bringing the bishop into the game, but doesn't really work. You just start trading pawns. g5, f captures, h captures, king captures, and this is now a well-known draw. So after bishop h1, we have rook to c3, not rushing with the advancement of the a-pawn any longer. Bishop to a8, just waiting to see what happens. Maybe something good happens, and rook to g3, going after the g6 pawn. King e6, rook captures, and king to f5. We have rook to h6, going after the h5 pawn. King captures on f4, and rook captures on h5. And now king to g4, and you still have to fight for your meal. But after pawn to f5, now Wei Yi's position is much better. The key here is after something like king to g4 and rook to h8, you can just move the bishop to f3, and okay, you still defend this. White still has to worry about the pawn. The king is already touching it, so to say, and you will also start pushing your pawn. In this line that David Anton chose after pawn to f5, the king is not touching the h pawn, and now rook to h8 is very deadly because your bishop is hanging. But okay, David Anton is already less than a minute on the clock, so of course you cannot blame him. Bishop to h1, and now rook to g8. David Anton's king is completely cut off from the action, and now this is a very simple showing of the principle of two weaknesses. Usually one weakness is not enough to win the game, so you have to introduce a second weakness, and the h-pawn definitely is a second weakness. We have king to e5, now comes pawn to h5, pawn to f4, pawn to h6, and now rook to h2. Okay, you're guarding everything here, so it seems rook to g6. We have bishop to a8, again just waiting to see if something good will happen. Bishop to c6, removing one of the defenders of the a8 square. Pawn to f3, there is nothing better to try. Bishop captures on a8, and now pawn to f2. David Anton fights until the very end. 1 minute on the clock, but he's finding poison. Feel free to pause the video and try to find the best winning idea for Wei Yi here, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this beauty. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is bishop to g2. That is the key move that Wei Yi played, and that allowed him to win this game with great style. So now you're preparing to bring the queen into the game, and also you're guarding the queening square for black. Black's only move is rook captures on g2, which was played. Rook captures f1 queen, David Anton queens, Wei Yi queens, also defends his rook on g2. And now there's nothing more. Queen to b1 with check. We have king to a7, queen to a1 with check, king to b8, and he was in this position on move 69. Yes, very nice, I know. That David Anton Guijarro resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. The king is out of danger. The queen already defends the rook, so you can't even try anything. And the only check you can give is queen b1, and then, well, really anything, just queen b7 blocks check, and now the black king is getting checkmated. So yeah, after 4 wins, 4 straight wins in a row, as David Anton came into this one with 4 out of 4, you know, he runs into Wei Yi, and Wei Yi says, not today. So that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very much looking forward to the clash Wei Yi versus Gukesh. Gukesh will have, I think Gukesh has white, although I could be wrong. I think I already mentioned it yesterday, but I'm gonna check just to make sure. Yeah, Gukesh is white, Wei Yi is black. I'm expecting a big fight. I don't know if it's gonna be like a theoretical struggle, or will Gukesh or Wei Yi, you know, try to, you know, go for some g4, g5 action. But we'll see. All in all, I'm expecting a great fight. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. David Anton played very well, but Wei Yi, well, I mean, he's just sensational in how he plays. So yeah, like I said, I'm really looking. I was really looking forward to Ding versus Gukesh, but I'm also very much looking forward to Wei Yi versus Gukesh. I would like to thank John Anderson, Anthony, Little Man, an anonymous person, and yes, nice try with that one. I'm not gonna fall for it every time. For your contribution to my channel, thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Olympiad until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.